Hello and welcome back. Draft season is upon us, and I have been so busy I haven't been able to live stream a mock draft, so today I'll hop in one and will walk you through my thought process using the strategy that I laid out in the data draft strategy video earlier this week. I want to emphasize that even for someone like me who's looking at fantasy hockey data every day, this is a completely different experience when you're on the clock and you have to make quick decisions. So I highly advise you all to try some mock drafts and specifically work on handling the twists and turns of the draft when you've got a guy queued up and he gets taken right out from under you, one pick before you grab him, things like that. It's interesting to see how that unfolds in your mock so you can prepare for your actual draft. Now let's hop into the draft room and get started. Okay, so today's strategy is going to be going heavy D, trying to get all three of my D before the 9th round, see what happens, and then see what D are left after that point. I'm also going to try to follow the data draft strategy as best as I can and push goaltending back as far as possible. Now, the first thing that I'm doing when I come in here is checking where I'm drafting. So I'm in 10th out of a 12-team league. So I'm 10th and 15th, and then you want to map out your next pick. I'm at 34 and 39, and then further up 58 and 63. So I can kind of plan to have two picks sort of together. I may be able to go the tandem option in terms of goaltending, pushing it way back. It may be a little dicey because there's 4 picks in between, and if these guys catch on, they can potentially snipe one of those guys. But now I'm also going to queue up a couple of players. So in that 10th range, I'm looking for a high offensive upside with some goal scoring and shot volume. I'll queue up Kaprizov. I doubt Rantanen's there. I do like Makar. I don't mind him at 10. I would prefer to have a guy with higher point per game upside because you can find a similar type of defenseman to Makar in terms of Yossi or Bouchard even in terms of point volume. You can get that a little bit later. So I'll try to fade D in the first 2 rounds, but then come back and see what I can get later on. Jack Hughes, I'm going to queue up for his point ceiling and dual eligibility, his shot volume and goal scoring. And we'll throw JT Miller up there. This is a categories league draft, I'm assuming, and it is the league settings are factoring in plus minus. I'm just going to ignore that because I don't play with plus minus, and I'm not going to think about that in this draft. This is sort of a prep for my THHL draft, my money league draft. So interesting stuff. Panarin goes 7th. That's a little early. He's definitely got the point upside, but he had a career year last year, and to get him at 7th is not necessarily value. Rantanen at 8, Brady Tkachuk at 9. And I think I'm going to go with Hughes here for the positional flexibility. Yeah, let's go Hughes. And I like Kaprizov here. If he's there at 15, I'll grab him. If not, we'll look at Miller. I want to queue up one other player just in case. Taking a look now. I don't want to use these projected stats. I'm going to look at last year. I do have a sense of where guys are valued just based on the player hub. I do have it open on my other screen, which you cannot see, but it is open and I'm kind of working off of it, but I don't necessarily stick to it. I like to just look at it in terms of value and where I might be able to find some guys. But now Makar goes 11th, Tkachuk, and then JT Miller off the board. If this guy doesn't take Kaprizov, he's nuts, and I will grab him. Otherwise, I think it would be a little crazy to go Bouchard here, but it is tough. In terms of raw, he went Nylander. That is absolutely perfect. I will draft Kaprizov and be very happy about that. Okay, so now in between picks, there's a lot of time. So now I'm going to queue up a lot of guys that I want to target with one of my next 2 picks. I'm queuing up all the top defensemen that I want. I don't have them in a particular order. I would maybe do this and put Dahlin up here because he's a little bit more complete and better for a categories league. But yeah, these 4 guys, I want to get one of them just based on their ranks. Someone should be there for me. If they're not, then I'll have to adapt and find something else. Here's Mitch Marner. If he drops, I'll take him there for that right winger, contract year upside. There are some other players. I am kind of fading centers with this, so I'm not necessarily going to pick up Braden Point. I already have a center in Hughes. I technically have 2 left wings now, so I can kind of focus on the right side a little bit more. Marner goes there at 23rd. Forsberg, Kreider, Robertson, so that's interesting. I'll come back with my next pick.
A few moments later.
All right, we're getting close now. We got a couple picks before mine. I do still have 3D on the board. I'm looking for upside here. I already have Hughes. I don't know if I want this stack with Brat. I went to Tage last year and I hated it. I might do it this year because why not? And there's Bedard. I mean, again, I was fading centers, but he's got some pretty good upside. I will also queue up Ovi and Stutzla. So here you've got a goaltender who, I'm not taking goalies now. Gensel, I'm a little concerned about just with a new team, and this is a very high pick. I don't like that risk there. Aho is very consistent, but he's always exactly a point per game guy. Barkov has a little bit lower shot volume than a lot of the other guys in this range. Vasilevsky, Hellebuck, excellent goaltending options. I'm just not going goaltending right now. I think it's a little early for guys like Kempe and Trocheck. Very complete. I got Trocheck super late last year, so there goes Tage. I had him queued up, and there's Dahlin gone. But we still have really nice couple of options. Let me just check the D, not the goalies, the D before we move on. There will be someone else left for me here. So I'm going to go and draft Adam Fox. Ovechkin went. There's Thompson and Ovechkin off the board. So that's interesting as well. Now I have to start thinking about those right wingers, I think, just because I don't have a lot there. Looks like I could push them back a little bit, to be honest with you. But there's Timo, and I do like Timo. There's Hedman. Next pick at 58. I'm going to go ahead and get Timo. This is something that I think about when I'm in these mock drafts, and it's a good reason to do them. When stuff starts happening and you're kind of thrown off because all the guys that you had queued up or taken or whatever, how do you adapt in those situations? How do you find a backup plan? So I had a couple guys queued up. I like all three of these guys. I thought about Hedman there, but I thought maybe I could push this back a little bit. And if Hedman's gone, there's somebody else for me there. You can see Dobson and Dougie Hamilton, Morrissey, Heiskanen, Riley, Weegar. A lot of options here. I do want one of them. And I do want to look at Erik Karlsson later on. He'll probably be my D3. So for my D2, I would particularly like somebody with a little bit better peripheral coverage and power play one quarterback time. Maybe McAvoy meets that, but you can throw him up there as well. I think Hedman would be a better overall choice in this range, but we'll see how this plays out. But yeah, getting up, there goes Bedard at 49. So that's interesting. Bedard, right about where he was drafted last year, and he should be above a point per game this year. That should be something that helps him get some value for you because you're getting him in the 4th, 5th round, and he should be a guy that holds up at least that end of the bargain. Vasilevsky at 51, that's probably good value based on what we're seeing now. So here, let me take a look at the goaltending. There are a couple of guys still on the board: Bobrovsky, Skinner, Demko, Sorokin. And I do want the last guy off the board. There's still some opportunity to push goaltending here back to maybe this 82 range, 82, 87. And we'll just keep an eye on it and monitor who of these guys are still available. Let me queue up a couple of them. I'm never going to go back to Bob. So let's go Skinner, Markstrom, Demko, Sorokin, Hill, Emper. And then I'll throw Ingram and Decord and Thompson on there just for fun. But we're up next. So what do we have? Okay. I think here, I don't like the stack of Dougie and Jack Hughes and Timo Meier. So I think I'm going to go McAvoy. I think Hamilton would have been the better pick there overall. I think his offensive upside and his goal scoring are better, but I already have Meier and Hughes, and I'm getting a little devil heavy. So that's the main thought process behind taking McAvoy. Plus, I needed a little bit of peripherals. You can see his shots and hits very relatively complete. Now I'm up again, and here I'm not taking any of those goalies. We do have Jarvis. I could do that. Yeah, I like Tippett. I don't think I have an elite right winger, which is unfortunate, but I do have some positional flexibility with Meyer and Tippett. They're going to get me peripherals left, right, and center. Like, they're going to get me hits, shots, all these types of things. And they're, Timo has a pretty good track record, at least a couple years ago, with his goal scoring as well. Timo last year was 94th percentile in goals, 28 goals on the year, 52 points, 3 shots per game, and 1.6 hits per game. So he was kind of a bangers, peripherals guy. Tippett, a lot of the same, 3.71 shots, 0.36 goals per game, 1.9 hits per game. So that's kind of filling that out. Konechny's gone. I would have liked him. So now I do want to look at my next defenseman and maybe a goalie in this range. Now, there's still a couple defensemen on the board that I do like. I basically like all of these guys. I like Uyghur, but I already got my peripherals guy. So maybe a Carlson, one of the two Carlsons. Heiskanen off the board, Sorokin off the board, and now we've got to look at some of these goalies. There's still some value here on these goaltenders. Nugent Hopkins at 78 is absolutely insane. He's a guy on a top power play in the world, dual eligible, and 2 years ago he was putting up absolutely insane numbers. And that was obviously a one-off, but with that said, he should be drafted higher than this. There's Cole Caulfield off the board. That would have been nice to have. At this point, check in on the goalies. I like Markstrom here, but I don't want to stack that many Devils. So I'm going to pass. And I'll take upside on Patrick Kane. Now, here's something I'm going to do just knowing that I'm going to draft him. I'm going to reach on Nichushkin. And the reason why I'm reaching on Nichushkin, if you look him up, he is almost a point per game player, 0.98 points per game, 0.52 goals per game. That's a 41 goal pace. And then also almost 3 shots per game and 96th percentile on the power play with 1.37 hits per game. So if he's in the lineup, he's going to be extremely valuable, and people are fading him because he's out of the lineup to start the year, which is great because you can pick up value. I did reach on him, definitely, but look at my wingers now. I'm very complete here. Hughes, Kaprizov, those are my top end elite ceiling guys, 1.2 plus points per game. Each of these guys has been above 1.5 point per game average at various points in their career. Timo and Owen Tippett are my peripherals guys with 40 goal pace. They're shot volume guys, hitters with goal scoring. So that's a theme, as I mentioned in the draft video. Kane, I'm betting on upside. Last year, he was relatively good for most of the time that he was in. He was almost a point per game player. And he is a power play guy, so he's going to get you those power play points. There goes Aiden Hill. So now I definitely want to start thinking about goaltending. And here we are at the 100 round or 100 ADP mark. So this is kind of where we were talking about that 8th, 9th round range. This is the 9th round pick for me at 106, and then my 10th round at 111. So let's take a look at the goaltending here. As I've pushed it back, I think I've rounded out my offensive group pretty well. I didn't grab that defenseman yet. So let me grab Darcy Kemper because I do like his defensive exposure. I think in a defensive system like this, he's insulated pretty well. And that's all he needs to do is make an easy save here and there. And then I will queue up Erik Karlsson. If he gets picked, I don't mind Faber here or Matheson. But I will take Karlsson for his upside. So now I've got Fox, who's an assist-heavy power play quarterback, but his spot is pretty much cemented. McAvoy should be the power play quarterback in Boston, and he's my peripherals power play guy. And then I've got Eric Carlson, who's an upside power play guy who we all know what he's capable of. He's 1.2 points per game as a defenseman, and that's incredibly hard to find. He didn't have a great year last year, but in 92nd percentile in assists, 90th in shots, 82nd in power play, and he got a couple blocks as well. So in a down year, he was still marginally efficient, and he's been relatively healthy, knock on wood, for the last couple seasons. So that's a pick I'm fine making there. I am going to queue up Seth Jones. I like his blocks, and he is a power play quarterback with Bedard, so I do like that. Drew Doughty being out means that Jordan Spence and Brant Clark should be drafted at some point in your draft, maybe by you, maybe not. But these are guys that are going to get the power play time, PP1 in LA with Doughty out. It doesn't have a timeline, does it? Fractured ankle, so it doesn't look good. That's at least 6 weeks or more that he's out. You could get some value on Doughty if he falls really late in the draft. Here goes a couple of goaltenders: Allmark, Luukkonen, Bennington, Kochetkov in order. Doughty going here. That's an auto draft, I'm assuming. Matheson at 122. So here, what I've got is I'm missing a center. I can keep fading those. We've got all of our wingers. I need 1D and a goalie. I'm going to get one of these 3 goalies. And all of these guys are going relatively late, so I can push them back. And I can focus on this defenseman at this point in the draft. Gustafsson going a little early, but that's pretty much should be value if he's the number 1 guy. He's the 1A. And here we are. So Shea, not a power play quarterback. Gostisbehere is a power play quarterback. Letang, a little bit of time and a peripherals guy, but I'm going to go with Seth Jones. And now I really feel good about my D. That's 4 really good D. Now I don't have a specific hits and blocks guy, but that's fine. Now let's take a look at some centers. There's some really good value right here. Of these guys, you really can't go wrong with a lot of them. I'm going to take Nick Suzuki. No, I'm going to take Bo Horvat. I was going to take Suzuki. I like his point totals. I like the fact that he's healthy. He's been in every game that his team has played over the last 3 years. I like his goal totals last year, assists and everything. The thing that caught me here was the shot volume. Pretty low at 185 for the year. As I look up his player hub, he's 2.26 shots per game, which is a little bit low. He's almost a point per game. So that's what you're getting out of this range with the centers. All of these guys should be close to a point per game. 86 and 82 for Robert Thomas. I could have gone that way, but again, the shot volume is a little low. And again, what I was talking about in the draft video is I like goals, shots, and hits as my theme in terms of the draft. So these are guys that meet some of that criteria, but I wanted that shot volume. Bo Horvat is a guy that does that. As I look up his player hub, he's 3.06 shots per game. So quite an improvement there. The goal scoring is better, 94th percentile. Power play is a little bit worse, and the overall point total is a little bit worse, but I'm fine with that. I will queue up Annunen because I like that, and I don't mind Stolars either. If some of these guys get taken, maybe I'll take a third goalie. I don't necessarily always take a third goalie, but I might think about it here. I do want to queue up these 3 guys: Scheifele, Kadri, and Vetrano. Scheifele with the lowest shot volume. I'm just going to unselect him, but he's a very consistent player, and I've gone to him in the past off the waiver wire. Scheifele, 0.97 points per game. The shot volume is too low for my taste. Kadri just goes. Scheifele goes. So now I like Vetrano, but I already have Kaprizov and Hughes on the left wing. I don't know if I'm going to go there. I didn't necessarily want Decord there. Time was running out. I wanted Logan Thompson, so I'll just draft Logan Thompson. So in terms of goaltending, I had Decord queued up, and I went there. So now I'm going to take these goalies off the board, and there goes Vetrano. So I had Vetrano in my mind. And then I looked at what I had. Hughes and Kaprizov are my left wingers. They're always going to be in the lineup. I'm never taking them out of the lineup as long as they're playing that night. I have flexibility with Meyer and Tippett. I also had Nichushkin, who's a single position left winger right now. He's always been dual eligible. I don't know if he's going to get that. So I had a little bit of a logjam on the left side. Otherwise, I would have gone Vetrano. And then I had to pivot, and I pivoted too slow. Normally, you get more time than 30 seconds. These mock drafts are quicker, so it helps you, kind of get in that rhythm of like, hey, I've got to do something really quick. I might queue up Rust as a right wing option. I do have Kane on the right side. And now as we move to this pick, I do need a hitter. And he's dual eligible. So I'm going to take Tanner Jeannot. Now, in terms of hitters, so hits per game, I'm going to make this one last pick, and then I'll bring up this point about hitters. And Russ just went. So this pick is not that important because basically at this point, you're just picking upside or whatever you want to get. So we'll just take Velarde. But back to hitting. So if you want a forward who's going to get you over 2.5 hits per game, it's going to be very difficult to find. So this is why I picked Jeannot, 3.84 hits per game last year. Now the goals and the assists were way down. This season back here, he had 24 goals, so there is some upside there, but he's dual eligible, which helps my positional flexibility, and that hits volume is going to help there. So that's why I grabbed Jeannot late in the draft. So that's what I'm looking for just to kind of round out the roster. But let's take a look at the roster one more time. So here's what we got. We got Jack Hughes and Bo Horvat in the middle. Kaprizov. So I've got my two elite upside guys in the first and second round with Kaprizov and Hughes. I'm really happy about both of those. I've got some complete peripheral shot volume goal scoring wingers in Timo Meyer and Owen Tippett, both dual eligible, which helps me get them in the lineup more. I bet on upside with Patrick Kane and just skill level with assists and power play numbers. Probably could have gone somebody else there, but I just was betting on upside at that range. I've got pretty elite level D. The only thing I don't have is a dedicated hits and blocks D. And I think a lot of these guys do cover blocks. So I don't have it on here because it's not part of this mock draft format. But McAvoy gets hits and blocks. Carlson was getting some blocks. Seth Jones gets blocks, but not many of these guys hit other than McAvoy. So that's why I bring in Tanner Jeannot at almost 4 hits per game right at the end. Gabe Velarde, I'm betting on upside there. He's never healthy. That's the only problem with him. But he's kind of just a shot in the dark at the end of the draft. Not really the most important pick. And then for goaltending, Kemper, Decord, and Thompson. So Kemper and Decord should be starters on really good defensive teams. Joey Decord playing for Seattle. Seattle 94th percentile in team defense, team expected goals against per game. And obviously he jumped up like crazy last year, and he will probably regress. But even then, at this ADP, and I probably got him somewhere around there, he's still valuable because of the team defense exposure. He played 50 games, so he was a relative starter. Save percentage was good. Goals against is going to be good because of the team defense. He was above expected, got a couple shutouts, and I don't see any challenge from Grubauer. I just don't think Grubauer's got it. And then so this is team defense 50th percentile or better and the game's volume. So you're not going to see Darcy Kemper there because he didn't play all that well last year. If we remove this, and I also put an ADP filter on this, so let's bring this down a little bit. And maybe we can go and find Darcy Kemper. He was going at 104. So his team defense rockets up to 81st percentile. That's the main reason I'm looking at him, and the fact that he should be ready for a bounce back. So similar to Decord, he should bounce up back closer, somewhere in between this 60 and 73 range at the very least. You're hoping for that elite level upside, but you're not necessarily going to plan for that. You're hoping that he can get back into this range, and I think he can on a good defensive team. You'll remember that this season, I believe, was with the Coyotes, but then he also had a couple of good seasons. This was with Colorado. So if he can do anything close to what he did in Colorado, just be solid, be 915 or better on that team defense, that should give him some value there. And if not, I've got Decord, and then I've also got Logan Thompson, who's not going to show up on this because of their team defense last year. So we can bring this down just a little bit, and he might actually end up showing up. So there's Logan Thompson. This team defense was not as good last year, but remember, they brought in Chikrin, they brought in Walker, and they've added some more offense, so maybe they can stay out of their own end. He played 46 games last year, so pretty much right there in a timeshare with Aiden Hill. He should be in a timeshare with Charlie Lindgren, 908, 270, so there should be some value there. Lindgren might hit the waiver wire. I don't remember if he got drafted or not, but this is the goaltending, and I think it should hold up, and if it doesn't, there should be some value regardless. So just recapping a little bit of what I've done, getting those elite level guys in the first and second round, and then going for some defensemen. I got Adam Fox. I ended up taking McAvoy over Hamilton. I would have taken Hamilton in general, but I had 2 Devils already, and I don't want to go that heavy with one team. Picking up Erik Karlsson for upside here as a power play 1 quarterback, getting you Sidney Crosby exposure. He played 82 games last year. That's nice to see as well. Then you've got Seth Jones. He should be healthier than he was last year. He only played 67 games, and Bedard is healthy this year and more insulated, so that will help boost his value, and he gets some shot blocks as well. He was relatively complete last year, so he should be a nice value D4. I reached for sure on Nichushkin. You can say what you want about that, but now because he's on IR or NR, I can throw him on my IR plus and go and grab somebody right after the draft and see who's still available and do a little bit more analysis to see who I want for week 1. And maybe that's your approach. Usually I like to grab somebody who's on IR at the later rounds of my draft so I can throw them on IR plus and just go and get a week 1 streamer off the waiver wire and prepare for your first matchup. So that's kind of what I did. I ended up getting Jeannot specifically for hits. I think he comes over to LA and they're going to rely on him a little bit more for some 5-on-5 goal scoring. He's never going to get power play time, but the hits volume is going to be something that I need. You can see not a lot of hitters on my team. McAvoy and then Tippett and Meyer are the 3 biggest hitters on the team, so do want to factor that in as well. Gabe Velarde betting on upside and goal scoring there. And then the goaltending we just went over. So let me know how you think this went in the comments section below. Obviously, your real draft is going to be slightly different. My real draft for the THHL is coming up tomorrow night, which is Friday night, unless it gets pushed back for whatever reason. So wish me luck in that. I wish you luck in yours. And thanks again. I'll see you in the next one.